Hello, everybody. Right now, I'd like to talk to you about ICE and the Democratic Party and how progressives can take advantage of both in the next election cycle. What came out today was a news article that the Democratic Party, 75 members of Congress, actually supported and decided to thank ICE and decided to vote to thank ICE in a symbolic vote that took place in Washington today. It's one of those mask-off moments. And something that I've always been saying for a long time, and people looked at me like I was crazy, and it's about to stop. Now when I say these words again, people are going to look at me like I'm less crazy because they've decided to give me evidence for what I'm about to tell you. Now there's a progressive wing of the party, there's that moderate-ish wing of the party, and then there's a conservative wing of the party. This is pretty much the right-wing conservative wing of the party. This is like the Kirsten Sinema, Joe Manchin wing of the party. Okay, you're ready. 75 members of Congress decided to thank ICE. And why is that a problem? Well, right now, ICE is causing a constitutional crisis. They're ignoring court orders. They're deporting people to countries that they're not even from, and then putting them into actually harsh conditions. And a lot of the argument is, well, what's the big deal about that? They're criminals. They're breaking the law. Absolutely. Technically, they are. They're here illegally, therefore it is a crime. But what is the penalty for this crime, and what has the penalty for this crime been? Now, I put a link in the description to an immigration law firm, and I don't know much about the law firm. It's just a link to their page that gives a list of things of consequences for overstaying your visa. It's easy to read, and it's put in a format that some non-lawyers, myself included, can go and get some legal advice, and they can see exactly what the problems are for overstaying your visa. And really, up until this administration, the consequences for overstaying your visa are you may find it much more difficult to re-enter and get a visa ever again. That's right, you don't go to jail. Worst case scenario, you're not allowed back in the country if you do it too many times. It's a serious offense, but it doesn't usually end up in jail. What ICE is doing, and this is why it makes it so bad, is they're not even giving people hearings, which is running afoul of the Supreme Court itself, which is very conservative and right-wing. So they're ignoring their own political parties, the Supreme Court, for this reason. The reason why this is so bad is not only are they giving consequences to illegal immigrants that are beyond anything that we've ever done, we're deporting them into countries that they're not even from most of the time, and they're shoving them into prisons and they're not letting them out. They're in prisons. A lot of the immigrants that have been deported, some of them have been disappeared and they've never been seen again. So some people have been kidnapped and possibly murdered over a crime that's consequences are overstaying your visa, at least, just denial of an official visa down in the future. Now, some people were here illegally, and you can get deported for that. According to U.S. federal law, if you're going to deport somebody, you have to deport them to their country of origin, or the place that they're from. If you're from China, you have to get deported to China. If you're from Libya, you go to Libya. If you're from El Salvador, you go to El Salvador. See, we're deporting people to El Salvador and deporting people to Libya that aren't even Libyans and not even from El Salvador. So we're actually they're breaking the law by doing that. That is a felony in itself. And a lot of the appeals courts, a lot of Republicans appointed appeals courts judges are even considering criminal action and calling their deportations illegal and a human rights violation. So, the Democratic Party's conservative wing thanked them for that. People are being disappeared over crimes that are misdemeanors. In other words, something that's actually a DUI is actually considered more severe, but now something at the level of a DUI is resulting in prison, and people are not getting out, and people are getting disappeared. And the conservative wing of the Democratic Party just said that they were good with it. The only silver lining is it can be taken advantage of in 2 years, because congressmen at least in the lower House of Representatives, are up for election at a lot more, at a faster pace. There's elections every 2 years. With the Senate, it's staggered, and once you're in for 6 years. So us in the state of Michigan, we're stuck with Alyssa Slotkin for the next 6. However, I think that Democratic Party voters, I think they're angry enough, and I think that they're willing to actually do something about it. So we shall see. This is a very good opportunity to get progressives in 75 seats. There's going to be elections in 2 years, and I think we need to take advantage of it. It's not just to get people in there with a progressive ideology, even though I would welcome it. I definitely think we should get more social democrats in there. We got to get rid of the fascism within the Democratic Party. There is no such thing as a good oligarch or a bad oligarch. They're all bad. And authoritarian-backed members of the Democratic Party, they need to go, because they're going to be an obstacle for progress like they always are, and they're going to shield the autocrats and the oligarchs from accountability because they always have. And then the fact that people are getting disappeared, thrown into prisons from countries that they're not from over misdemeanors, where people are literally getting killed over this stuff and beaten and tortured, they're okay with it. That's where we're at. And that is why the Democratic Party has a low approval rating, because of this wing of the party. Well, anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. It's too early to tell, but we'll see. We'll see if this causes them a backlash or not. Have a good day.